I'm Jeff from Solar Choice. Today we're doing a case study of an electric vehicle charging install at a strata building in Carrabba Points. So we were first engaged about 12 months ago to complete an electric vehicle feasibility study for this building, and we looked at all the different options they had available to put electric vehicle charging infrastructure into the parking bays. The building has over 20 different units and parking bays. We looked at various options including the visitor parking bays, level 1 charging, which is trickle charging with a power point, and level 2 charging, which is bolting on wall chargers into the individual parking bays. This building was able to pass for motion to have power points put into the parking bays in a level 1 charging solution. So today we're going to talk to someone from the Strata Committee and the electrical contractor that was awarded the work to complete the job to understand a little bit more about what it took in this building and some advice for you if you're considering doing the same thing at your own strata building. Well, we're here today with Phil Whitehouse, who is on the committee here at 1 Spain's Wharf, and appreciate your time today, Phil, just to talk to us about the process of getting this EV charging set up in.
Yeah.
So to begin with, how did the idea for EV charging come up at this building? You know, how long ago was that?
Yeah, sure. So I moved in about a year ago, and I have an EV already. So
Right.
straight away there was a bit of a challenge there.
Yeah, sure.
So a bit of a pain to have to go to another site to get it charged up. They had already installed a dedicated switchboard for EVs, but hadn't done the job of connecting that to all of the garages.
Okay.
And so I kind of picked up the ball from there with enthusiasm.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And interesting that you've decided to put power sockets in here. Some other buildings decide to put chargers on the wall, level 2 chargers. Was there much discussion amongst the owners around deciding between those two options?
Not a huge amount of discussion. Fortunately, I think we got some good advice from you guys in terms of what those options were, so we could weigh those up. We did explore getting one of the dedicated chargers in one of the parking spaces, and we're in one now.
Yeah.
We don't have many of those spaces.
That's a visitor parking bay, you mean?
That's right. And we figured out that probably wasn't a good long-term solution anyway, as more vehicles that are EV are brought onto the premises. And we figured, well, we might as well do trickle charge anyway, so that we could get that into all the garages and not disrupt these parking spots. Also, we were considering the amount of electricity that's allowed to come in to the building from the road.
From the road, yeah.
So we didn't want to burst through that with everybody having power-hungry chargers. So yeah.
Okay. And obviously, these strata projects come down to a vote. That's, you know, one of the big hurdles in getting these projects done. Can you tell us a little bit about how the vote was conducted here and how the outcome of the vote went?
Yeah, sure. So we have a strata committee meeting probably about 4 or 5 times a year.
Okay.
And the subject came up, and I said I'd run with it, engaged with suppliers, try and understand what the landscape looked like. When we finally settled on you guys, we then put together a document that was circulated to all of the owners. About probably half of the apartments in this building are owner residents, and the rest have got tenants. So I sent round a Google Doc to basically soften the ground and just explain, this is why we're doing it. These are the benefits. Even if you're not getting an EV anytime soon, it's still going to increase the value of the property. We did weigh up whether we'd do garages one at a time when it was needed, rather than doing them all at once, and decided that would just be too disruptive.
Okay.
And we talked in that document, talked about various costs to the individual owners and sort of weighing everything up. Here is a recommendation, gave them an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah.
But everyone basically came back and said, good job, well done.
Okay. And did that go to, was it at a meeting or when the vote was actually conducted?
The vote went to an AGM.
It was at an AGM.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was, we always knew that was coming up, so we just organised around that.
What were do you recall the voting percentages in favour of the motion?
All in favour, yeah.
100% in favour. Okay.
So that's that document that softened the ground, as I said, definitely did the job. There is some resistance out there, particularly in terms of some EVs catching fire and people worrying about that stuff. There's all sort of fear, uncertainty, of doubt about that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So addressing that directly definitely paid off. Like,
any advice for other strata committee members who potentially have an EV, looking to get this done in their own building, what would you suggest to them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you guys did a great job, so I recommend having a chat with you, and you've obviously done a few of these, so I guess every building, not that I've been on many strata committees, but I imagine they've all got their own idiosyncrasies, and got to work through those and different levels of appetite. And some people might have power hungry Teslas. I myself have got a Nissan Leaf, so quite happy to just use that as a runaround. Other people might need more than what we needed.
Okay.
But ultimately, there's a lot of stuff online as well. Check with your local council, whether it's guidance or maybe there's grants for doing this kind of work. We didn't go down that route. But yeah, that information is out there.
Okay, great. And in terms of the physical works on site, how long did it take you to, how long were the tradies here, and any thoughts on how that all went?
Yep. So initially it was going to be an 8-day project. We ended up getting it wrapped up in 7 in the end, which was great. The guys that came on were like super conscientious. Like, they recognised that people need to get in and out of their garages regularly. How can we reduce disruption? So it's pretty tight collaboration in the end.
Okay.
With me sending messages out to every owner, every resident, like, this is what's happening in a week's time, this is what's happening tomorrow, okay, here's the phone numbers, and that everyone can contact each other just to sort of get out ahead of any potential disruption.
Great. Okay, well, look, thanks for your time, Phil, and really appreciate the feedback for other owners to take forward, and all the best with your building.
Thank you.
So now I'm here with Andre from All Installed Electrical. Thanks for your time today, and we're just going to run through some of your advice on these jobs to try and help future strata committees who are looking at doing one of these projects. So what sort of things are important to look for when getting a quote to install electric vehicle charging infrastructure?
Definitely there's a few options in terms of what type of charger you want to run with, and that will determine what cable gets run per tenancy. Spot, it also talks about things like load management, how we're going to factor in the load of the building to the capacity that we're going to increase it with the chargers. And then we go things to how's the cable going to get from point A to point B. So here it's Baines Wharf, Carrabba Point. We're very close to the water, you can see behind us. They have issues with rust here, with salt spray. So best practice here was to go with a white cable tray you can see above us that's powder coated. It's zinc coated first and then gets powder coating for a second form of protection. 1, it's going to last a very long time, and 2, it looks so much better. I mean, you're not having a silver thing on the ceiling, it blends in quite well. Also chose white cable ties, just a seamless sort of install. The other thing that you've got to make sure that a good company will do at their cost, obviously, is fixings. Stainless steel fixings, stainless steel saddles where there might be conduit, just things like that will just last the test of time, won't rust out. So environmental factors are definitely a good thing to think about. And the main thing is also headroom. Here it's not too bad, we've got about 2.5, but the new tray doesn't go any lower than any existing services. So that way you're not changing any headroom of the building. You don't have to do any redesigns of entry points and exit points. Residents still know that if they're cleared previously, they're still going to have no clearance issues now. So that's why we decided to invert the cable tray here, go hard against the ceiling, and then that way, no, it's not going to be any issues with that impacting.
Yeah, okay. And look, one challenge obviously with this building is all of the parking bays are in locked garages. So how did your install crew on the day get access to the parking bays when they needed to?
Yeah, so we quoted this, and we quoted it in sort of 2 options. Slow option being less labour intensive, but it meant that they was able to open less garages at a time. So we had a committee member here that was really good. We gave him a schedule of works, we gave dates that we needed to, and targets we needed to hit per day, and he liaised with the owners of each garage to open it up, and then we'd lock it upon completion. So that was good, it made sure that it all flowed on.
And presumably the fast way is open all the garages, all the cars are gone for 3 or 4 days while you do your work.
Correct. If there's an option of doing it, it's best because we can probably get ahead of schedule, or if there's any unforeseen circumstance, it doesn't really impact the following days. But also, if a company's set up to do it, if there is any issues, you can throw a few more guys at it to keep on track. North Sydney here, limited parking on the streets, it's all time parking. There was no option to move all the cars. So some options we had was move the cars to the front of the garage, put drop sheets over them, and then other options was I able to take the car to work that day.
Specifically at this building, the individual power sockets connect back to the owner's individual meter, which is great. They can get all the billing directly on their normal bill. What does that mean from your perspective in terms of feeding that electrical infrastructure in? How did it work at this building, and what would you think is best practice?
The solution here was to go to the option one, which is a 15 amp power point in each garage. That was set up purely because the metering was already at the main switchboard, which is just above us here. There's already a distribution board put in by someone else that had a separate circuit ready to go for each unit's individual meter, and then we wired back to that. So each charging point goes to their meter and they're billed accordingly. It's also a good option here because not every resident has a car charger or electric car that they needed. So here they've actually now got a power point in their garage where previously they didn't even have that. So great for charging, and also great to now have something they can put a fridge in or something else that's not impeding in the strata's power.
So in terms of getting power from the switchboard, which is upstairs on the ground level, down to this car park area, I imagine you're cutting through some of the concrete here. Talk through what some of the challenges are there and what best practice is to overcome those.
There's definitely a previous issue here where previous contractors had cut through the concrete, didn't do their due diligence, didn't do a slab scan, they actually took out the power supply to the building.
Wow, okay.
So looking at it, we already knew that there were some services through here. We already had that historical event happen. So we always would get a slab scan, and what that does is it x-rays the slab, lets you know where all the reinforcement bars are, but also more importantly, is there any water services through the slab, is there any electrical services through the slab. That way you're hedging your bets and you're not going to hit something as you're drilling through it. Then we just core hole. We do a wet core hole, and then that way there's no dust, and then we can clean it up accordingly with a vacuum, and then any core hole gets fire sealed, any penetration. We also do, when we come from the ground level to the high level, we'll have a cable tray like this, but then we'll put a cover over it. That way it just stops any doors damaging any cables or anything like that, and just covers it, and it presents so much better in the garage. Also just powder coated to blend in.
Thanks, Andre, for your time. Look forward to working with you on many more of these projects, and yeah, it looks like you've done a great job here.
Thank you.